I wanted to make another video explaining belief, and I'm sometimes with these videos I'm never trying to catch up with stuff I've said before by putting out another video. It's sort of just a free fall, like a free fall almost, in terms of what I describe and what I'm talking about. But maybe this one could qualify as somewhat of a catching up video to the one previous. The last one, like I said, was about belief, and specifically about religious belief, but I threw in some everyday understandings of what belief is. So just to recap, I said that to break it down simply, there's two types of belief, and one would be basically what you experience in your fluid life, where you make certain decisions based on maybe things like intuition or loosely gathered data from any given scenario. You tend to believe, quote unquote, what you're about to do will fit or match the parameters of the situation in order to move forward. For some, moving forward is a very odd thing, but without getting a little too personal with some, I'd say that in contrast to that everyday flow of your life, there's religious belief. And I think most times when you say the word belief, it connotes religious belief, because with somewhat of a diminishing effect to belief as it functions in everyday life, moment to moment, you don't necessarily call it belief. You may call it prejudice, you may call it intuition, you may call it maybe a number of other things, but belief as a word that kind of escalates its position as a word, maybe with a capital B, I don't know, is sort of religious belief. Now, religious belief, what I'm saying is that with religious belief, there becomes this institutionalized understanding of what belief is. So it's sort of making influxes to your mentality based on a sort of concreted ignorance, a concreted or backed up bureaucratic almost type of support system for an irrational way of thinking. You could think of easy ones like the Christian churches, the Catholic churches stance on homosexuality and equal marriage or marriage equality, condom usage among different groups, not even just among different groups, but among Catholics. Or you could think about homosexuality is really a big one. There's an institutionalized sort of backing up of irrational fears and irrational hatred and irrational sort of understandings of what homosexuality is and what marriage is, etc., etc. So there's with that backing up, the belief comes this kind of this sort of like thing that people feel safety in. They feel less threatened because they have this support system for those irrational fears and irrational ways of thinking. I'm not sure if I've exhausted that point of view, but essentially, those sort of officiated stances on certain points of human life, they translate somewhat into everyday irrational fears and prejudices and things like that. So they do have a top-down effect as well that go into maybe what I was referring to earlier as everyday belief. So that's sort of what I want to get across when it comes to belief. I'm not sure if the first video was too blurry. I also made reference to the fact that most people condone belief as justified because belief exists, which doesn't really logically jive with me. So there are differences there. I don't think that you can use belief to justify belief. I think the first rule of English I ever learned, but one of the rules of English I learned was you never use the same thing in its definition because it doesn't really explain anything. You just you just use the same thing. Like anyway, I think most of you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's it. Bye.